Welcome back to Carneades.org. Today we're going to be continuing our series in defense of philosophy with Philosophy is Useful. Now, upon learning even more about philosophy, many charge that philosophy is just useless. Maybe it's something that isn't just bumper stickers, they're actually studying something that has content, and maybe the words they use aren't just nonsense, but when you get down to it, it's not actually useful. I would consider this kind of the first real criticism that we've encountered. It's not just based on a misunderstanding or ignorance about philosophy. It has, in fact, been expressed by the likes of Neil Degrasse Tyson. The intuition is really easy to see. Basically, philosophy, especially compared to science, has not contributed meaningfully to our daily life. Philosophy hasn't created a smartphone, say, or taken us to the moon. Science is for those who want to change the world, while philosophy is for those who want to sit in an armchair and think. However, there are a number of ways to respond to this argument. We're going to save the claims that science actually requires philosophy for justification and oversight for the next video. For now, we're going to try to come up with some important things that philosophy has actually been useful for. Now, the first example I gave was a smartphone. Philosophy hasn't created a smartphone, right? Well, I'm not so sure. Computers are feats of engineering, but they're also feats of philosophy. Logic, particularly. Ones and zeros are no more than truths and falses in different guise. Modal logic, particularly temporal logic, is used to create and program computers. Check out my series on temporal logic, particularly the video on linear temporal logic for more. Writing code is nothing more than writing logical statements. Computer science is just an expansion of logic, which is philosophy. So, even if computer science created the computers, philosophy created computer science. Science and engineering alone did not give us computers. Logic, the very heart of philosophy, did as well. Now, science can only answer hypothetical, in a Kantian sense, questions. If I want to make a nuclear bomb, how can I do it? If I want to cure polio, how can I do it? We can only answer how questions. Only philosophy can answer categorical, Kant again, questions of should we use a nuclear bomb? Should we cure cancer? It might seem that the answers to these questions are obvious, but philosophy is also essential for answering more personal or less clear questions. Should you try to make as much money as possible, or devote your life to working for less money but for good causes? Should you have children or adopt? Should we provide lower quality health care to more people or higher quality health care to fewer? And we're not talking about what is the most efficient to do. We're talking about what morally should you do. If these are your choices, your only choices, do you have a moral imperative to do one or the other? Should we eat animals? Science is completely useless in the face of these questions. A scientist must be told an end goal to accomplish. It's philosophy that decides what that end goal is. Now, politicians, media outlets, and random people on the internet are constantly making arguments for particular conclusions. They set up their premises, and they try to draw a conclusion from it. What is our standard to measure the strength of these arguments against? How can we objectively determine which conclusions actually follow from their premises, and which ones are simply logical fallacies? The answer, once again, is philosophy. In a world where social media promotes invalid and fallacious arguments because they are popular, a discipline that can separate out the quality arguments from those that are just fluff is far from useless. In fact, it's essential to helping society better understand good and bad arguments, good and bad cases that are being made. And interdiscipline. Now, science and religion talk past each other because they don't speak the same language. The claim that we should abandon philosophy is an academically isolationist view that religion and science will never be able to talk to each other. The language of philosophy is the language that both can speak. Because philosophy of religion can build up the arguments which argue for the claims of religion and that those claims must be based on, whereas philosophy of science builds up those very same structures for science. And so if you want to have an actual conversation, you need to do it through philosophy, because philosophy builds up from no assumptions up to those claims, whereas each of science and religion take their own assumptions and move in different directions. The language of philosophy is the language that both can speak, and philosophy can expose the strengths and faults of each. In this day and age, we desperately need a way for those with different views to actually debate, not just argue past each other. Philosophy is that language and that method. The idea that philosophy is useless right now especially is nonsense. That was Philosophy is Useful. Next up, we're going to take a look at the claim that philosophy is not dead. Then philosophy makes progress, and finally, philosophy is not racist. Watch this video and more here at Carneades.org, and stay skeptical, everybody.